In the quaint suburb of Willowbrook, where maple trees whispered secrets to the wind and manicured lawns hid the fractures of family life, stood a grand Victorian house at the end of Elm Street. It was a relic of old money, with gabled roofs that pierced the sky like accusatory fingers and stained glass windows that cast kaleidoscopic patterns on the polished oak floors inside. This was the home of Eleanor Hargrove, a woman of 72, whose silver hair framed a face etched with the quiet wisdom of someone who had outlived storms. Eleanor had inherited the house from her late husband, Thomas, a shrewd businessman who had built an empire in real estate before his heart gave out 20 years prior. The house wasn't just bricks and mortar, it was a fortress of memories. The grand foyer echoed with the laughter of their only child, Robert, as he chased fireflies through the French doors as a boy. The library upstairs held shelves bowed under the weight of leather-bound classics that Thomas had read aloud to her on rainy evenings. And the rose garden out back, where Eleanor still tended the blooms each dawn, was a testament to the love they had nurtured like fragile petals. Robert, now 38, was the spitting image of his father, tall, broad-shouldered, with a mop of chestnut hair that refused to stay combed and eyes the color of storm clouds. He had followed in Thomas's footsteps, becoming a mid-level executive at a tech firm in the city, commuting daily with the reliability of a metronome. Life had been predictable for Eleanor since Thomas's passing. Quiet mornings with her herbal tea, afternoons volunteering at the local library, and evenings spent knitting scarves for the homeless shelter. Robert visited every Sunday, bringing takeout from their favorite Italian place and regaling her with tales of boardroom battles that all changed the day he brought home Sophia. It was a crisp autumn afternoon 3 years ago when Robert pulled into the driveway, his sleek black sedan humming like a contented cat. Eleanor had been pruning the roses, her gloves dusted with earth, when she heard the gravel crunch under tires. She straightened, wiping her brow, and watched as Robert emerged from the driver's side, grinning ear to ear. Beside him stepped a vision, Sophia Langford, 29, with porcelain skin, raven hair cascading in loose waves, and emerald eyes that sparkled like polished jade. She wore a fitted red dress that hugged her slender figure, and her smile was a masterpiece, warm, inviting, the kind that made strangers feel like old friends. "Mom, this is Sophia," Robert announced, his arm slipping around her waist as if it belonged there. "We've been seeing each other for 6 months. I wanted you to meet her." Eleanor extended a hand, her callous fingers meeting Sophia's soft, manicured ones. "Welcome to our home, dear. Any woman who can put that smile on my son's face is already family." Sophia laughed, a melodic trill that filled the air like birdsong. "Mrs. Hargrove, Eleanor, please, I've heard so much about you. Robert says you're the strongest woman he knows. And this house, it's like stepping into a fairy tale." They spent the afternoon in the sunroom, sipping iced tea while Sophia charmed Eleanor with stories of her life. She was a marketing consultant, she explained, fresh from a high-profile campaign for a luxury brand in New York, orphaned young. She'd clawed her way up from foster homes to penthouse views, her ambition a fire that burned bright. "I admire women like you," Sophia said, her gaze locking onto Eleanor's with feigned reverence. "Independent, unyielding. You've built something real here." Eleanor smiled, sensing the undercurrent beneath the flattery, but said nothing. She had always trusted her instincts, honed by decades of navigating boardrooms alongside Thomas. Sophia was a chameleon, her colors shifting to match the light. But for Robert's sake, Eleanor opened her heart. Within months, wedding bells rang in the rose garden, under a canopy of white arches draped in ivy. The reception spilled into the house, guests toasting to the perfect couple. Eleanor watched from the veranda, her champagne flute cool against her palm, as Sophia twirled in Robert's arms. "She's a keeper, Mom," Robert whispered later, his breath warm with wine. "You'll see." The first cracks appeared subtly, like hairline fractures in fine china. Sophia moved in immediately after the honeymoon, her designer suitcases transforming the guest suite into a minimalist sanctuary of chrome and silk. She redecorated the floor, swapping Eleanor's antique Persian rug for a modern abstract piece that clashed with the woodwork. "It's just a fresh start," Sophia cooed when Eleanor raised an eyebrow. "For all of us." Robert, smitten and oblivious, deferred to his bride. He worked longer hours, his promotions fueled by Sophia's networking advice introductions to her city contacts that greased the wheels of his career. Sundays grew shorter. Takeout was replaced by excuses of fatigue. Eleanor adapted, as she always had, but the house felt smaller, its air thicker with unspoken tensions. Sophia was a master of microaggressions, those tiny barbs disguised as concern. Eleanor, that tea you drink chamomile, it's so quaint. Have you tried matcha? It's all the rage for keeping the mind sharp. Or, during family dinners, Robert was telling me about your volunteer work. How noble. I could never. I'm too busy building the future. Her laughter always followed, light and disarming. But Eleanor's spine stiffened each time. The isolation began in earnest 6 months into the marriage. Sophia suggested Eleanor downsize her library hours to avoid straining herself at her age. Robert nodded along, citing Sophia's worry for Eleanor's health. Then came the medical appointments insisted upon by Sophia, who had researched the best geriatric specialists. Eleanor humored them, her blood pressure readings pristine. But the subtext was clear. Frailty was expected, demanded even. One evening, as rain pattered against the library windows, Sophia cornered Eleanor while Robert was at a late meeting. "This house is too much for you alone," she said, perched on the edge of the velvet chaise, her legs crossed elegantly. "Robert and I want to help. We could convert the attic into a lovely little apartment for you, cozy, independent. Sell the rest. Invest the money. It's practical." Eleanor's knitting needles clicked steadily. "This house is my home, Sophia. Thomas and I built our life here. It's not for sale." Sophia's lips curved into a sympathetic pout. "Of course, but times change. Robert agrees it's for the best. You're family now. We take care of our own." The words hung like smoke, and Eleanor saw the glint in Sophia's eyes. Possession, not protection. That night, alone in her bedroom, Eleanor dusted off an old photo album. Pictures of Thomas, Robert as a toddler, holidays by the hearth. Her fingers traced the edges, stealing her resolve. She wouldn't fight fire with fire. She'd let it burn itself out. Unbeknownst to Sophia, Eleanor had never been one to slumber on her rights. Years ago, after Thomas's death, she had consulted Harlan Whitaker, a silver-tongued lawyer whose firm had handled the Hargrove estate for generations. Harlan, a weary man in his 60s with a penchant for bow-tie eyes and dry wit, had drafted ironclad documents, a living trust that locked the house in Eleanor's name, with clauses protecting against coercion or undue influence. "You're sharper than most of my clients half your age, Ellie," he'd said, initialing the final page. "But predators smell vulnerability. Keep your eyes open." Eleanor had, and now she smelled one. She called Harlan the next morning, her voice steady over the line. "She's circling Harlan, like a hawk over a field mouse." He chuckled softly. "Then let's lay a trap, shall we? Something elegant, untraceable. Make her think she's won." The plan unfolded like a well-rehearsed play. Eleanor began to lean into the role Sophia had scripted for her, the doddering matriarch, forgetful and frail. She misplaced her glasses during conversations, letting Sophia repeat instructions with exaggerated patience. At dinner, she'd pause mid-sentence, her fork hovering as if chasing a lost thought. Robert fretted, his brow furrowed. "Mom, are you okay? Maybe we should get you checked again." Eleanor nodded meekly, folding the folder shut. "Thank you, dear. You're so kind." Sophia rose, tucking the papers under her arm, her posture straightening with victory. "We're family, Eleanor. This is just the beginning." As she sauntered out to the sunroom, phone already in hand to call her notary accomplice, Eleanor allowed herself a private smile. The game was hers. The days that followed were a masterclass in restraint. Sophia grew bolder, her touches on Robert more possessive, her glances at Eleanor laced with smug triumph. She began packing boxes in the attic. "For your new space," she explained airily. Robert, sensing the shift, pulled Eleanor aside one evening in the garden. "Mom, Sophia says you've agreed to the changes. Are you sure? You seem off." Eleanor patted his hand, her eyes misty. "It's for you, Robbie. Always for you." He hugged her tightly, guilt etching his features. But Sophia whisked him away for a date night in the city, leaving Eleanor to her roses. Harlan moved like clockwork. 2 days after the signing, a courier arrived at dawn with a sealed envelope. Official notice from the county clerk's office. Eleanor opened it in the library. The paper crisp under her fingers. Eviction proceedings initiated. Pursuant to fraudulent conveyance clause, respondents Sophia and Robert Hargrove Langford are hereby notified of immediate vacating of premises at 142 Elm Street. Failure to comply within 72 hours will result in sheriff enforcement. She faxed it to Harlan, who chuckled over the speakerphone. Beautifully played, Ellie. The beauty is, Robert's clean, he didn't sign. It's all on her. The trust holds. The house is yours. And that LLC of hers? It'll unravel like cheap thread. By noon, Sophia received her copy via certified mail, delivered to her office downtown. The blood drained from her face as she scanned the legalese, her perfectly manicured nails digging into the paper. What the hell? She hissed to her assistant, dialing Robert frantically. He arrived home early, the notice clutched in his fist, his face a mask of confusion and betrayal. Sophia, what is this? Eviction? From our own home? Sophia paced the foyer, her red dress from that morning now rumpled, her hair disheveled. It's a mistake. Your mother. My mother? Robert's voice rose, thunder in the hallway. Did you forge something? Tell me the truth. She spun on him, eyes flashing. It was for us. She was dragging you down. Robert, this crumbling old mausoleum, her endless traditions. I did it for our future. Eleanor's cue. She emerged from the parlor, her cane tapping softly, another prop, discarded later. Sophia, dear, what's all the commotion? Robert whirled. Mom, did you sign something? Sophia says. Eleanor held up a hand, her frailty evaporating like mist in sunlight. I signed exactly what you think, Robert, but not what she intended. Sophia froze, the color returning to her cheeks in splotches of rage. You played me? Played? Eleanor echoed, stepping forward, her voice steady as granite. No, child. You played yourself. Those papers? Drafted by my lawyer, Harlan Whitaker. Every line you witnessed bound you to the fraud. The trust is unbreakable. And now, by law, you're evicted. Not Robert, never him. Just you. Robert's jaw slackened. Mom! How? She turned to him, her eyes softening. I've always protected this family, Robbie, even from itself. Sophia lunged for the folder on the side table, but it was gone safely in Harlan's office. She crumpled against the wall, tears streaking her mascara. You bitch. You pretended. Language, Sophia. Eleanor chided gently. This house has standards. The sheriff arrived at dusk. 2 deputies in crisp uniforms, their badges glinting under the porch light. Sophia packed in a frenzy, designer bags bulging with clothes and spite, hurling accusations like confetti. You'll regret this, Eleanor. I'll sue. I'll tell everyone what a manipulative hag you are. Robert stood silent, his arms crossed, the weight of revelation crushing his illusions. As the deputies escorted Sophia to her waiting cab hailed by Harlan's office, naturally she spat one last barb over her shoulder. This isn't over. Eleanor watched from the doorway, the cool evening breeze ruffling her hair. Oh, it is, dear. Run along now. The cab's taillights faded into the twilight, and Robert turned to his mother, tears glistening. I almost lost everything. How can you forgive me? She pulled him into an embrace, the scent of roses clinging to her blouse. There's nothing to forgive. Love blinds us all. But truth sets us free. In the weeks that followed, the house breathed again. Robert filed for divorce, the papers swift and unceremonious. Sophia's prenup insisted upon by Eleanor at the wedding, leaving her with little more than her pride in tatters. She vanished into the city, whispers reaching Eleanor of a new job in Boston, a fresh start with a man who owned even less than she did. Robert moved back into his old room temporarily, the two of them rebuilding over shared meals and long talks by the fire. He quit the tech firm, chasing a passion for sustainable architecture, designing homes that honored the past while embracing the future. Eleanor resumed her library shifts, her step lighter, her roses blooming riotously that fall. One crisp October evening, as leaves carpeted the lawn in crimson and gold, Harlan visited for dinner. Over roast lamb and red wine, he raised his glass. 2 traps well set and games well won. Eleanor clinked her goblet against his. To family Harlan, the real kind. Robert, from across the table, smiled genuine, unburdened. And to the house that wouldn't let go. Outside, the Victorian stood sentinel, its windows glowing like watchful eyes. It had seen Deception's shadow pass, and in its steady light, the Hargroves found their way home. But stories like Eleanor's don't end neatly, they echo. Months later, a letter arrived, postmarked from Boston. Sophia's handwriting, elegant even in defeat. I underestimated you. Touch. Maybe one day, I'll build my own fortress. Eleanor burned it in the hearth, the flames devouring the words. Fortresses weren't built on sand, she thought. They were carved from stone, patient, unyielding, and always one step ahead.